as we head into the holidays and we start thinking about all the parties, because parties mean usually a lot of fat and sugar and calories. So, and maybe we've been in first place for a little while and you've started to get on track, you've started to make some healthy choices. So when you think about the holidays, you maybe kind of dread it a little, at least that part of it, the food part of it, the sugar, the calories, the choices, the temptations, the things you have to avoid. But I want to tell you that you can eat well, you can join the celebration, you can have fun, and you can be healthy. Now, there are a few tips. Some of y'all have probably already heard of these that you should do. You should, like when you're going up to the buffet or wherever the food is, fill up on the healthy stuff first. And then go put in the things that you might think of as an indulgence and kind of round out your plate with those. But try to fill your plate first with some of the healthier options. Load it maybe with veggies if they have veggies there. The second tip that I really love is choose foods you love. If you put it on your plate, it's got to be a must-have. Like my sister-in-law, she doesn't think sweet potatoes should be part of an entree or anything. Sweet foods should not be part of the main meal. So she can ignore those. But how many times do we just put something on our plate because it's there? You know, you just walk by, you take a little of everything and put it on your plate. So a good rule of thumb is choose things you love. Because we don't want to deprive ourselves, but we want to enjoy those little things that we like. And the next rule is to stay hydrated. A lot of times if you're dehydrated, your body interprets that as hunger. So it's a good idea to keep drinking. It fills you up, so you're not as inclined to go back and get something to eat. It keeps your hands busy, so you can't really hold another plate if you got a glass of water in your hand. So just stay hydrated with healthy choices. And now the last one is to bring your own treats, bring your own dish, so you're sure that you'll have something there that you can eat. So that's what we're going to kind of do today. We're going to talk about all those options. And so let's start with breakfast, because on Christmas morning, you like to have a good breakfast. So we know that breakfast is healthy. We know people that eat breakfast have a lower BMI. We know that if you eat breakfast in the morning, it tells your body that there's enough food. It doesn't need to conserve. It kind of keeps your metabolism fired up all the way to lunch, instead of it starting to slow down and conserve because it thinks you don't have any food. So there are a lot of studies that tell us that breakfast is important, and the holidays definitely just as important in the holidays. Now I know for me in the holidays, there are two options. I'm either too busy to have breakfast, or I have to come up with a breakfast for a bunch of people. So we're going to kind of talk about both those options. Now, some of y'all, if you've been in any of my other webinars, you've heard me talk about oatmeal in a jar. So there are a lot of options, a lot of choices, a lot of flavors, and that's fun. But some people just prefer those instant packets. Maybe apples and cinnamon, they have all these flavors. You can buy the packets, you just add hot water or zap it in the microwave for a minute. And that's a good option, except a lot of times they're high in sugar or they have other stuff in there. So it's always better if we can kind of control what we're eating. So I just want to show you a quick recipe for making your own instant oatmeal. So the first thing we're going to take is and you need to look at the label and make sure it says instant oatmeal and doesn't say old-fashioned oats. You want the instant. And you can use a bag, but I love these little jars. These little jars are perfect. You can get them anywhere. I've talked about that before. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at the grocery store. They're about $8 for a dozen, so super cheap. So what we're going to do, and you may eat different amounts of oatmeal, but what we're going to do is put a half a cup of instant oatmeal in our jar. And this is kind of our base. This is our base recipe. Now we're going to add a little bit of brown sugar here. Just a teaspoon of brown sugar. And then you have other options. You might put a little bit of cinnamon, just a dash. Just put a little nutmeg if you want to. And then you can just shake it up and mix it all up. But you might want to, there are lots of other things you can put in here. It just depends on what you like in your oatmeal. You might want to put some cranberries or some raisins, maybe some dates if you like dates. Helen, I know you love dates. Sometimes you eat those as a dessert. So you could chop up some dates and put in there. You could put walnuts or sliced almonds, just whatever you like in there, you can put that in there. And then you could, instead of just making one at a time, you could get your bowl and I'm going to send you all these recipes, everything we talk about. Don't worry about writing all these down. You are going to get a copy of every recipe I talk about today. So if you want to make maybe 10 at once, you would just times 10 the recipe and then just parcel it out between your 10 jars. You don't have jars, you can use a baggie. But this is just a way you control the sugar, you know what's in here, there's no other junk in there, and we want to eat as clean as we can. We want to get down to the basics, so this is just a good way to do that. Now you might be thinking, you know, it's Christmas, I want something special. That's not very festive. I can have oatmeal, you know, any day. So we're going to kick it up a notch. I just wanted to give you a basic. You can put this on the counter, and when your guests, if you have family staying with you, they can just get up, grab their jar, add some hot water to it, and they're good to go. And you don't have to worry about finding them breakfast. They have it right there. So the next recipe we're going to make, get some of this stuff out of the way, is a strata. Now, a strata, if y'all don't know what that is, it's basically a casserole, a layered casserole. Usually has bread, maybe some cheese. And this one is pretty much very similar to that, except it takes 20 minutes to throw together. And it has half the carbs of your typical strata. So it's lower in carb. So it's really, really good for you option. And the other thing I love about this one is you can make it ahead. It's actually better if you make it ahead, because when it sits in the fridge overnight, it soaks into the bread and all the flavors just come out. It's even better if you do it ahead. So that's perfect for Christmas. You can make it the day before or even the day before that. It can sit in your fridge a couple of days and then just stick in the oven on Christmas morning. So this is a spinach bacon Gruyere strata. So it's packed with it's got bacon for protein, it's got cheese. We're going to use some Greek yogurt. It's just got tons of protein, so it's going to keep you going all day long. So let's get started. We're going to need our skillet. And the first thing you're going to do is fry bacon. Now we're only going to use 4 pieces of bacon. And I like to use a center cut bacon, just so it's a leaner. We're not going to use a lot of bacon in this, so we want the flavor to really go throughout the whole recipe. You could use turkey bacon. If you like turkey bacon, that would work just as well. So I've already pre-fried 4 pieces of bacon, and we're just going to chop those up. You just need to chop it up just in little pieces so the flavor is all through the whole recipe. And we're just going to chop these up, and then we're going to set these aside. Excuse me. All right, just put this right here until we're ready for it. So then we're going to take that skillet that we fried this bacon in. We're going to add a few things. We're going to add 1.5 cups of onions, and then we're going to add some garlic. Let me move this out of the way so I can do the garlic. I'm going to add 3 cloves of garlic. And if you want to buy the kind that's already minced, that's perfectly fine. I like to use fresh garlic, but the kind in the jar in the refrigerated section, that's perfect. You can use that too. It works just as well. There's something wrong with that one. One more. It's 3. And you probably already know this, but what I'm doing with the garlic is if you hit it with the flat side of your knife, that makes the peel come off a lot easier. So it makes it a lot easier to peel your garlic. So I'm just going to mince this up. And then we're going to put this in here with our onions. And we're going to saute this with a little bit of olive oil. Just a couple of tablespoons. And then we're going to cook that for about 10 minutes, just till the onions kind of get brown and soft and everything gets tender. And once that's sauteed, then we're going to add some fresh spinach. We're going to add 1/2 bag of fresh spinach, about 6 ounces. But you want to chop it up first. So we'll just take it out of the bag and just do a quick, rough chop. It doesn't have to be tiny pieces. You just don't want the big leaves in your strata. We're just going to chop this up. Super easy. Just 3 ingredients so far. We've sauteed for 10 minutes, and now we're going to put our chopped spinach in here and just cook it for about 2 more minutes. Just enough for the spinach to wilt. Now I've already cooked some here, so this is what it's going to turn out. This is what you're going to have after all that cooking. So we're at about 12 minutes so far. So now we need a baking dish, an 8 by 8. This is about 10 by 7, so close, something like that. And you want to spray it first with your cooking spray. You can even freeze this if you want to and have it. All right. I'm going to set this aside so we're ready for it. So now this is our onion, our garlic, and our spinach mix. We are going to add some cheese. Find my cheese. Sorry, I have too much food here. All right. So this, we're going to add Gruyere cheese. Remember I said it was bacon, spinach, and Gruyere cheese. So that's what we're going to add, and not a lot. And Gruyere is it's a Swiss cheese. So if you don't have it, you can use Swiss, just regular Swiss. But Gruyere melts really well. It bakes really well, so it's a good baking cheese. So it's a good one to use for that. All right. So I'm going to add my cheese. Get my spoon. So we've got our onion, our garlic, our spinach, our cheese. Now let's add our bacon. And remember I said a strata was a layered dish? This is our first layer. And then we also talked about how a strata is usually a bread casserole. So now let's add our bread. You just want a crusty bread, maybe a whole grain bread if you have one. Let me get a bigger bowl to mix this in. All right, so we have our bread. We've got our spinach, our onions, our garlic, our Gruyere cheese. We'll mix that. Just want it to be well mixed. Not clanging. All right.
I'm sitting here wondering who gets to eat this egg strata later, Lisa.
One of my boys will be here and they'll get to eat it.
Mm-hmm. We have a question. Is the cheese a strong cheese? I can't even say it.
It does have a strong flavor. So some people, it's one of those cheeses you might want to taste it before you put it in and make sure you like it if you've never had it before, because it can be a strong cheese. So you want to make sure you like it. It's usually in a package. It's in your specialty cheeses. So a Swiss, if you just use Swiss cheese, that would be kind of a milder. So that's why I always like to use a stronger cheese, so you don't have to use as much. And that's the great thing about this strata. You can use a little bit of cheese, a little bit of bacon, and the flavor goes a long way. All right, so that's our first layer. Let's make our second layer. Put my bowl back up here. Now our second layer has the other things we talked about. It's got the yogurt, the Greek yogurt. It's got milk. So we're going to add 3/4 cups of milk. We got 1, 2, and this really has a lot of flavor. And you can see that we've used just whole ingredients, just spinach, onions, olive oil, all the things we know we're supposed to be eating are in here. All right, then we're going to add Greek yogurt. And I love plain Greek yogurt. You can use it in place of sour cream. You can use it in so much, in place of the fat in a recipe. So let's add our Greek yogurt. Now we need 4 large eggs. Eggs here. And another way we've lightened up this recipe is by, we're going to use 4 whole eggs and then 2 egg whites. And you can do that in a lot of your recipes. If a recipe calls for 4 eggs, you might use 2 eggs and then the rest egg whites, and it's 2 egg whites for every whole egg. So that would be 4 egg whites. All right, now the rest, just going to use the white. So you really have to, if you have a favorite recipe, you might just try half the eggs as whites, and then if that comes out really great, then do just all egg whites. But sometimes if you go all egg whites right at first, it doesn't work in every recipe. So I would recommend that you try, just half first. All right.
Lisa, we have a question. One, somebody said, is skim milk, will it be too thin? They saw you use 2% is one question.
You could use 1% too. I just didn't happen to have it today, but 1% would work as well. I wouldn't use skim though for this recipe.
And then the other thing is, somebody wants to know if this recipe is in the book, and we'll give everybody the recipes, but is this recipe in the book? I don't know.
It's not in the book, but it will be in the new cookbook that will come out later next year. All right. So we're going to add a tablespoon of Dijon mustard just to give it a little pop.
I see how you measure.
Yeah. It's a tablespoon. Get my whisk. I'm going to add a little salt.
That cute little sign, life is short, take whisks.
Little pepper. I'm taking my whisk. You just want to make sure the eggs are all broken and incorporated. Your yogurt's incorporated, your salt and pepper. And then we're just going to pour this over our first layer. Oops. And that's it. You just cover it, put it in your fridge, and then you're going to bake it at 350 for about an hour. Just put this over here. And you're ready to go. And that recipe does double well. If you have quite a crowd at your house, you could double that and it would work fine. So you want to chill that overnight, at least 8 hours. Could be 2 days, though, if you wanted to, up to 2 days in your fridge, or freeze it. Now, if you freeze it, what I would do is wrap it in foil and then wrap it really well in plastic wrap. And then when you're ready to have it, you can take the plastic off and bake it in that foil. That helps it kind of steam a little bit for that second baking. And if you, just real quick, if you do have, when you do have in the fridge, take it out and let it sit on the counter while you're preheating your oven, so it takes the chill off a little bit.
I was going to say, and if it's frozen, you can put it frozen in your cold oven and preheat your oven, because I have literally broken my glass container putting it into a hot oven. I don't recommend putting a hot Pyrex or anything into a really hot oven with frozen stuff in it, but I've learned that. But somebody wants to know if there's a dairy-free option. Could you use almond milk, soy milk? Could you use a different milk?
You could use an unflavored almond milk. That would work okay in this.
Cool.
Great. All right. So that's our first, and it's make ahead, which I love. So our next breakfast we're going to make is shakshuka. And I'm wondering, Helen, if anybody has ever made shakshuka before.
It's such a good question. Yeah. So we're going to launch a poll. I'm going to mute Lisa right now so she can get started on her rune. So here we go on the poll, guys. The next poll is, I don't even know what, I'm right in there with what's a shakshuka. So anyway, have you ever made one? So you're voting now. Have you ever made one? You may have had it once, or yes, you love it. So I have to be like, what? I don't know. I can't wait. I told Lisa I love learning something new. So if you guys could answer the poll, that would be awesome. So so good. And while you guys are doing the poll, I just wanted to say you can send questions. There's a Q&A section, and if you want to send the questions in the Q&A, that way I can track whether you're using it or not. So there you go. So we have about 79% of the people have voted, so we're almost getting there. Anybody else? Come on, this is an easy question. Lisa, this is a new one. Most of the people have no idea what this is. I'm just saying. So that's cool. I got not one person who says yes, they love it. So we're going to learn something brand new from Lisa today. All right, Lisa, I'm ending the poll. Here we go. Sharing the results so Lisa can see these results. See, none of us know what we're talking about. So I'm going to bring Lisa back.
All right. That's cool. Great. I love it when I'm telling you something new, so you're not hearing the same old thing. So shakshuka is a Middle Eastern entree or meal. It's has a lot of flavors. It's a tomato-based dish with eggs, and a lot of times when somebody makes it, they'll make it in a big skillet. But today we're going to make kind of a individual serving shakshuka, so you can have them in your fridge. This is another one of those make-aheads. It's super easy. So the first thing we're going to start, we got our skillet again. We're going to get a little olive oil. We all love olive oil, right? We talked last time about how you pick a good olive oil. And now we're going to add onion. We're going to add garlic again. Just some minced garlic. I have a trash can over there. I'm not just flinging food over across the room, in case y'all are wondering. I just keep. If I had more room up here, I would do a trash bowl. I always have to have a trash bowl on the counter for all my peels and all the stuff I don't need, so I don't have to keep going back and forth to the trash can. Does anybody else do that? I guess we didn't do that poll, Helen, but I love a trash bowl. It's so convenient. Okay, so now we've got our onions and our garlic. The next thing we need is red pepper. You could use a yellow pepper. Green pepper is kind of a different flavor, but if you like that, you could use that, but I prefer a red or a yellow for this. And I wonder if y'all know how to cut a pepper. Probably, but we'll go ahead and cut one so you can see. So you cut the top off, and then you cut the bottom off. And you can just pop this top out of the top. Pop this out and throw that away. So we can still use this. And we can still use our bottom, so I'll set that right there. And then what I do is just make a cut down the side, just one cut, all the way through one side. And then you just kind of lay it open. And you can kind of peel out this membrane. Because that's what you don't want, the seeds and this white membrane. Helen has a really cool gadget that she uses for this. But if you don't have that gadget, this is the way you would want to do that. And get rid of all your white. Leaves you a perfect canvas for whatever slice you need. And we're going to do a pretty thin slice of red pepper. You just want to slice up, and you want about 2. You could even do a red and a yellow if you wanted to. Add a little different color. I love red pepper. Did you know that red pepper is just a green pepper that was left on the vine longer? You probably knew that. Y'all probably knew that. Same with the yellow. So if you have a green pepper plant, you leave it, it'll eventually become a red pepper or a yellow pepper. All right. So we have our red pepper in there, and we would put 2 peppers in there, and you could even cut your ends up and put those in there too. That'd be great. And you're just going to saute those until they're soft. So about 10 minutes, just like our other dish, just about 10 minutes saute. And then we're going to add some things to this. We're going to add some crushed tomatoes, just a can of crushed tomatoes, a 14.5-ounce can. My cans were bigger because I cook for large groups, so all I have were big cans today, so I put some in a jar just so y'all can see it. This is a 1.5 cups. So we're going to pour that in. I love jars. I use a lot of glass. And the next thing we're going to put in here is cilantro. I love cilantro. And just another tip, you probably know this also, but just in case, when you're cutting cilantro, you just want to kind of hold it at an angle. It's okay if you get a little stem, but you don't want a lot of stem in there. So you just kind of hold it at an angle and try to get just the leaves. And we need about 1/3 cup. So this is about 1/3 cup. If you don't like cilantro, you don't have to have it in there. You could put some fresh parsley if you wanted to for the green and the flavor. It seems like with cilantro, people either love it or they hate it. All right, so we're going to put our cilantro in there. All right, then we'll put a little salt, a little pepper. And now we're going to put a little paprika. just about a teaspoon of paprika. Measuring again, Helen.
I see. Hey, Lisa, we have a few questions. So
Yeah.
it's from the old one. They wanted to know is if you were not a meat eater, is it okay if you didn't put the bacon in there? You know, like
Sure.
you could leave the bacon out, couldn't you? Yeah, I
You
thought
could
so.
leave the bacon out.
I mean, you eat vegetarian, so I would think that's true.
There's even a like a
Like
tofu. There's a tofu jerky that you can get like at Whole Foods and some of those kind of places. You could chop that up and put it in there for a little flavor and just give it just like a quick saute, not as long as you would bacon. And that would kind of add that smoky flavor similar to bacon, not the same, but you could definitely do it.
And then somebody wanted to know if they could use egg beaters. I would assume that they could use egg beaters, but.
You could use egg beaters, definitely. Now this one, egg beaters wouldn't work as well. So once that's cooked, you cook that for about 10 minutes. Then you're going to put it in our little ramekins. Just the little ramekins, you can get those at Walmart or Marshall's or wherever. And you're going to divide that up into 6 servings. So you're just going to spoon, once this is cooked for about 10 minutes, with your paprika and your crushed tomatoes and your peppers. You're going to ladle this into your ramekins. And that's your make ahead. At this point, you would stop, you would cover it, you would put it in your fridge, and it's ready to go. And then the next morning when you want breakfast, you're going to take your little ramekin out. You're going to get a spoon and just make a little well in the middle of your tomato sauce. And you're going to take an egg, and you're just going to crack it right in the middle of that well. Then a little more salt and pepper. And then you're going to bake this in the oven at 350 for about 7 minutes, just depending on how firm you want your egg. You can even microwave this for about 1.5 minutes, and that would cook the egg too. You're basically just trying to heat your tomato back up and cook your egg. And then it's ready to go. You can put a little chive on top. And so it's just a good, healthy breakfast. It's got protein, it's got tomato, it's got spices, it's got peppers, just lots of good stuff and lots of flavor going on in there. So this is a good make-ahead breakfast that you can also do. Shakshura. So now you know what shakshura is if you hear somebody talking about it.
Yeah, I want to know, how do you spell that again? Shakshura.
S-H-A-K-S-H-U-R-A. Shakshura.
Okay.
It's a Middle Eastern meal.
Yeah. Well, for most of us, it's all new to us. So cool. Cool.
So if you're making it in a whole skillet, you could put really however many eggs you wanted. You could put 6, you could put 8, you could put 4, just however many you want, however many people you have. So that's really just up to you. So.
And then would you put the skillet in the oven, or you would just heat it on the stove?
You would put the skillet right in the oven. After you crack your eggs in there, just put the skillet right in.
Very cool. All right. Well, we're 2/3 of the way. We got two meal recipes going. So just wanting to stop and just let you know we're moving on to our next section. Take it away, Lisa.
All right. Great. Okay. So we've had our breakfast and now we're heading out to the parties. So what was our tip? Choose foods you love, right? Choose foods you love. Just keep saying that to yourself. I'm going to choose foods that I love. It's a way to have a more, maybe a positive attitude, not walk it in saying, oh, I can't have that. Oh, I can't have that. No, I'm going to choose foods I love. So like cheese and crackers for me, that's not foods I love. Or chips and ranch dip, not doing it for me. But maybe my mom's golden cheesies that I look forward to all year, get in my belly. That would be foods I love. So that's the attitude you need to have. So what was another tip that we had? We had choose foods you love, and then we had take your own dish, right? So let's look at we're going to look at some appetizers that you might have at your house or take. And the first one is bruschetta. I wonder if y'all have ever had bruschetta. Probably. That's a little more common than shakshura. All right, so we're going to make an herb ricotta bruschetta. So first we need to get our French bread. Just find a good crusty French bread And we're going to slice it pretty thin. You can see I've already sliced some off here. I'll show you in a minute. And I've talked before about what knives you need in your kitchen. You really just need 3 knives. You need a good chef's knife, like I've been using most of the time. You need a serrated knife for things like tomatoes and bread. And you need a paring knife. And that's really all the knives you need. We have these big blocks with all these knives in it, but you really just need 3 knives. So if you want to focus or spend your money on a good quality knife, those are the knives you need. So we're going to cut these pretty thin. You can see how thin, because you want a good balance of flavor. You don't want a real bready bruschetta. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take these slices and you're going to toast them. You're going to toast them in the oven, just both sides. So I've already toasted these. Next thing you're going to do, let me get my next thing, is you're going to take some cherry tomatoes and get these open. And you're just going to dump, any kind of baking dish would work, any kind of pan you have, because we're just going to roast these. So we're going to get a little bit of olive oil. And the recipe will have this measured out. So if you don't want to do like me and just eyeball it, it'll be all measured out. Then we're going to add a little salt, a little pepper. And then we're also going to add a little bit of sugar. That just helps them caramelize. Just a little bit, just a teaspoon, not a lot. And then we're going to just mix this up. And we're going to stick this in the oven at 450 for about 20 minutes. And those tomatoes will pop. They'll get nice and soft. Now let's make our other layer to our bruschetta. All right. What I love about this, it has a nice cheese, and it has a lot of herbs, a lot of fresh herbs. Now I'm going to use some fresh herbs that I have here from the garden, but you could use dried herbs. The rule of thumb with dried herbs is 3 to 1. So for the dried herbs are going to have a lot more concentrated flavor. So if you use a tablespoon of something, you would want 1/3 dried, if you understand what I mean. Just ask and Helen will tell me if you don't know what I'm talking about. So the first thing we're going to do is get some thyme, and you can just pull these right off the stem. It's just about a tablespoon of fresh thyme. So a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So we would do a teaspoon of dried. We'll just do just a quick chop on this, so it's not just big leaves in our cheese. Just a quick rough chop. Throw that in there, and then we'll get some oregano. Ooh, it smells so good. I wish I could smell it. I love fresh herbs. And you can put, if you're storing your fresh herbs in the fridge, this is the way you would store them. Just in some water, in a jar. And it could be a small jar. I've put them all in this jar just to, I knew I was going to use all these tonight. But you could put them in just little jars, little cups. And you might put them in a little tray in case you knock them over. You could even, and put them in the fridge, but you could even put them in your windowsill. Make a nice little usable flower arrangement. All right. A tablespoon of this also. We're just going to do a rough chop. This is our herb cheese. We're just going to do just a little bit of lemon rind. Nice lemony herb. Just lots of flavor. You really want it to pop. You want your tomato and your olive oil and just all these flavors just going on. Because that's what makes you not realize you're not having as much fat. When you're taking out the fat, you really want to put flavor in there. And just about a tablespoon of lemon juice. And the last thing is 3/4 of a cup of ricotta. Ricotta cheese. You need to say that like Giada, right? She says it with that nice little Italian accent. Ricotta. All right, I'm just going to mix that up really well. Get all those flavors in every bite. All right. And just about anything you're cooking with, you want it to be at room temperature. So if you're going to cook with butter or ricotta cheese or Parmesan cheese, take them out before you're ready to start cooking and let them just kind of come to room temperature. It's really going to make them easier to work with, and the flavors will be better. Even things like flour, eggs, you can take those out 30 minutes before you're ready to start working with those. All right. Now we're just going to spread it on our bruschetta, on our toast. And then we're going to add, and we don't have those baked today, but you're going to add your, after you've roasted your tomatoes, you're going to just put those on top. And that's it. It's pretty, it's colorful, it's healthy, it's full of flavor. So just another good appetizer that you might take or have at your house, and you know that you can have it. And there, it's about 80 calories per bruschetta. So if you want to kind of keep track of that, if you're watching your calories. All right.
All right, we got 10 minutes left, Lisa, so bring us home.
Wow. No. All right, just going to do a real quick one then. Get my bowl.
And if any of you guys have any questions, just put them in the Q&A area. For those of you guys who have asked a couple of times about the recipes, we'll send a link out in the email you'll get tomorrow. The system that we use automatically sends out an email 24 hours. So you're not going to get the email from me, but it goes through our Zoom until tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time. And then I'll send a link. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, because we'll post this on our YouTube channel, and all our past webinars are up on our YouTube channel, you can, they'll, underneath in the description, there will be a link to these recipes as well. So if you're watching this later, look at the bottom of the description in YouTube. All right, Lisa, take it away.
All right. Well, the next recipe, since we're kind of short on time, I'm just going to kind of run through it with you without actually taking the time to mix it. Because really, you're just putting everything in the bowl. And these are spinach balls. So if you normally have like a sausage ball, a lot of the parties I go to, there's a sausage ball. Well, this could be a replacement for that. It's a spinach ball. It's got just the frozen chopped spinach that you drained really, really well. You put that in there. It has a 1/4 cup of Parmesan. Has a 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs, a little bit of garlic salt, a little bit of Italian seasonings, and it's got 2 cups of mozzarella. So you're going to mix all of that together, your breadcrumbs, your Italian seasonings, your garlic salt, your mozzarella, your Parmesan, and your spinach. And you just mix all of those up, and then you're going to take your sheet pan, your baking sheet, put parchment paper on that, and just make little balls. And you're going to cook those for 20 minutes. So it's super quick. Dump everything in the bowl, mix it up, make your little balls, bake it for 20 minutes, and you're done. Just a really quick, easy appetizer. You could serve it with a marinara sauce. If you have a favorite marinara sauce, it could even be a jarred sauce. We've talked about that before. If you're buying a jarred marinara, you want to look for one that has low sugar. So just a quick and easy appetizer. All right, so the next thing that we would talk about is side orders. So really, I just kind of want you to think about getting back to the basics of roasting your vegetables. You can just, any vegetables in a pan, salt and pepper, olive oil, a little balsamic, maybe some cranberries, maybe some walnuts. Just throw some stuff in there. It gets caramelized, looks really pretty. Don't disregard that kind of side order. It doesn't always have to be the broccoli rice casserole that's all cheesy. You know, just roasted vegetables can be a really pretty side order. Maybe if you have mashed potatoes, instead of doing the heavy cream, you might do, or butter, you could use like a roasted garlic, maybe even a horseradish. You could use some Camembert cheese, which is a really strong flavored cheese. So you could use just a little bit of it and put it in your mashed potatoes, and it gives you a really good flavor. And in your recipes, I'm going to give you a recipe for camembert mashed potatoes. So just something easy that you can do with your side orders just to make a healthier option. So our last thing is desserts. Now desserts, what I like to do, my rule of thumb for desserts is make mini size desserts. If I make gingerbread cookies, I make smaller ones. Instead of using a tablespoon, use a teaspoon to put your drop cookies on the tray. I make little mini cheesecakes in these little jars because we really don't need that whole slice of cheesecake. A little cheesecake in a jar is just enough. So try to start thinking about what desserts you love, and if you can make a mini version of it. You could have mini strawberry shortcakes, maybe even just chocolate-covered strawberries. Just a couple of chocolate-covered strawberries would be a great dessert. That's your fruit serving for the day, almost, if you eat enough of them. So just think about that. Like if you have a favorite or a famous lemon square, just make your squares a little bit smaller. And then you can bring a lot more variety to the party and eat smaller portions. All right, so now I want to kind of talk about kids, getting kids involved in the kitchen. One thing you might think about is when you're making your grocery list, let them make a grocery list. Think about things that they can pick that'll be on their level, and let them write them on their piece of paper. And when you're going to the grocery store, they can fill their list while you're filling your list. So just try to think of ways to get them involved. Let them pick the produce and put it in the bag. Maybe weigh it. If people still weigh their produce in the grocery store, they can measure and mix and set the table and do all these things. So it can be boring if you're in the kitchen by yourself. So get everybody in there, get the kids in there, get everybody in the kitchen with you, and make it kind of a family affair. So it's not just work for you. Try to make it fun, make it part of the celebration. So one kid's dessert, an option that I like, is a cinnamon sugar popcorn. I have in here 8 cups of air pop popcorn, and I just do it in a bag. I get a paper bag, put the kernels in there, put it in the microwave, and when the popping slows, I take it out. And then it's air popped, no oil. And now I'm going to add some butter. Well, first I'm going to take a little spray, just a little cooking spray. Spray it, mix it a little, spray it, mix it a little. And then I'm going to take a tablespoon and a half of melted butter, just for all these 8 cups of popcorn. So not much, and it already got unmelted. But pretend I poured a tablespoon and a half of butter on this popcorn. And then the next thing we're going to do is take some sugar and some cinnamon, and not a lot, just 2 tablespoons of sugar for all 8 cups. Let me pour this back in here. So 2 tablespoons. I'm trying to rush so I don't keep y'all over. A little bit of cinnamon. And I'm going to mix it and just sprinkle it over. And even kids can make this. Just sprinkle your cinnamon sugar. So it's 2 tablespoons of sugar, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1.5 tablespoons of butter for all of this. And another fun thing they can do with this is let them decorate their cup. I don't know if y'all can see that, but just made that with a Sharpie. It's a little snowman. They can make their own appetizer. So they have their own little dessert that they made, the little container that it goes in. Another thing you can do with these cute little clear cups.
Lisa, move the second cup. We can't see the decoration. Oh, there you go.
That? All right.
Yeah.
Another thing they can do is put some dressing in the bottom of the cup, and then you can put sugar snap peas, you can put broccoli. I have celery and carrots. You can put whatever little vegetables they like. Maybe they only like carrots. And you can just make a bunch of these little cups, and that's their little appetizer. They can just grab and go. So just some fun things that kids can do. They can make them themselves. They can decorate the little cups and, you know, make their own. Be part of planning, cooking, and making the dessert. So I don't want you to be afraid of Christmas celebrations and holiday parties. We can go. We can celebrate. We just need to choose foods we love. Think about healthy options we can take, and we'll be fine. So we can do this. So Merry Christmas.
All right, Lisa, we have one more question.
All right.
They want to know, do you track your food?
I do track my food. I lead a couple first place classes, so I track my food because I want to be doing what, I'm telling y'all to do. So I do track my food. I like a paper tracker. A lot of people use MyFitnessPal, and that's great, but I like to write down my food, so I use a paper tracker.
Cool. Well, I'm on MyFitnessPal right now, but like most people know, I definitely use a paper tracker and have been using it for the last year. One of the things Vicky always says is, it's okay if you can get to a healthy point and you don't have to track your food and you can eat healthy every day. That's okay. That's good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I found too that my brain starts to play tricks on me. It's not on my side in this, eating healthy thing. Like if I have peanut butter on toast for breakfast, I'm thinking, oh, that's a tablespoon. And after a while, I realized that is not a tablespoon, Lisa. So I'll have to start measuring again, just so I can kind of track it and get back into where I need to be able to eyeball it and know what it is. So a lot of times I do kind of, if I stop tracking, I'll eventually start, my serving sizes get bigger. I really have to take control of my brain and get back on track.
Amen. I mean, I am still measuring my cereal, my oatmeal. I just measured my oatmeal. I don't know how to do cereal without measuring. I agree with you. There's certain things agreed. Peanut butter, almond butter. Yeah. Certain things are definitely, measuring is good. There's nothing wrong with it. But to the same thing, we want to be able to say, if you can get to that point. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but maybe someday, who knows? It could happen. It's been 11 years. It could still happen, maybe. So
Definitely, sure.
Well, everybody, I just want to remind you again that we'll send an email tomorrow. You'll get one at the end that will list the recipe link and stuff. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, check the description at the bottom. Lisa will just be creating a little document for us, and I'll include that. So we are so glad you are with us. Next month, we have Mary Ward with us, and she is doing just a fun thing on getting started with an exercise plan for January. So come back in January and join us. Otherwise, everybody here at First Place, we want to say we wish you all a Merry Christmas, and just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting our ministry. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.